So our first set of speakers for our first talk are Sheetal Gaiki, who is the Associate Director in CMC Regulatory Submissions from Janssen Pharmaceuticals, based in New Jersey. In her current role, she's responsible for developing content strategy and delivering biologic and combination product dossiers for global submissions. She's also involved in leading various internal and external efforts related to CMC data standardization, and a core member of the CMC data exchange platform currently being developed by Accumulus Synergy. And then Rita Algorri is Manager of Regulatory Affairs at Amgen in Thousand Oaks, out on my side of the continent. In this role, her responsibilities include leading and orchestrating internal and external engagement activities relating to regulatory modernization, digitization, automation, and emerging technologies. And she's also the product team lead for the CMC Data Exchange platform, currently under development by Accumulus. And so today, they're going to be presenting on Accumulus FHIR, an overview for the CMC data there. And so I see both of them are online. Go ahead and you should be able to share the presentation.
Hi, this is Sheetal. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to present to Algorri Foundation. And today Rita and I jointly will present again a very high-level overview about the FHIR data standards being developed for CMC data, and this is done again with the team from Accumulus Synergy. So I'll pass it on to Rita first, and then we'll do the presentation jointly.
All right, thanks so much, Sheetal, and thank you very much, everyone, for having us here today. Looking forward to discussing and hearing questions. So just to get us started, so Accumulus Synergy is a nonprofit organization and technology startup that is developing innovative solutions for optimizing regulatory efficiency. So the ultimate goal here is to enable acceleration of global availability of therapies for patients around the world. And so to do this, Accumulus is changing up the interaction model between sponsor companies and regulators through the use of a cloud-based pipeline. And currently, Accumulus is partnered with and supported by multiple collaborators, which includes 12 sponsor companies, as well as multiple health authorities. So the solution that's being developed for CMC applications is called Data Exchange. So some of the key features are listed here, but just to quickly summarize. So Data Exchange is a scalable, structured, standardized CMC platform, CMC being chemistry, manufacturing controls, which supports ongoing data standardization initiatives that several key regulators are championing. So this includes ISO IDMP, which is increasingly emerging as a potential requirement for the future in the EU, and US actually just released a guidance a couple weeks ago. PQCMC, which is being built by the US FDA, and HL7 FHIR, which is an international exchange standard that several regulators are increasingly looking towards for the future of information exchange across several different domains, including CMC and labeling. So the solution is ultimately based on a componentized library that will store and manage validated regulatory data. It'll support API-based integrations with source systems to help capture information. And kind of the first focus area for data exchange is CMC, but it is scalable and extensible to clinical, preclinical safety data in the future. And just to note, this platform is not yet commercially available. It's still in development, kind of approaching that initial pilot stage in the next couple of months. But you'll see some more information about Accumulus's general availability, I think, over the next year or so. Okay, and so this is sort of a rundown of the end-to-end vision for the Accumulus platform, which includes this kind of re-envisioned interaction model for how sponsors and health authorities are going to interact. So this is sort of the step-by-step of all of the different features and functionalities that we're anticipating. So when we start with the sponsor source systems, there's some heterogeneity in where data is sourced and stored across different organizations. We have a few different options for getting that data into the cloud-based environment of Accumulus. There's a highly automated sort of version, which is having a direct integration versus manual entry or document Excel upload. And then once we have data in the system, we can standardize through the management of structured data elements, which can be sort of mapped to a submission template. And then we can have that terminology validated and auto-convert any information to regional requirements if there's, for example, controlled terminologies that are region-specific. And then finally, when data is ready to be sent to health authorities, we can do that purely in the Accumulus platform through cross-account exchange to securely transmit that data for review via the cloud. And then health authorities have a few different options as well for viewing and exporting the data and conducting collaborative reviews that I won't go into too much detail on. And just wanted to note that this sort of work stream would be fully compatible with a FHIR server on both ends of the pipeline for both the sponsors, workflow, as well as the health authorities. So data standardization is really at the heart of what the platform will do. So as part of this process, kind of needed to start somewhere with developing a schema or a set of instructions to help with transforming data from the present state, which is shown here on the left. So very unstructured, narrative-driven, to get to the point where we're working in a highly structured environment, shown here on the right, where we have more of a form field, tabular sort of interface. So in order to get to that point, we needed to kind of take apart our CMC filings and determine what information is needed and establish a structure for it. And also work towards establishing some data standards that are interoperable as well as internationally applicable. So what we're working through now is this middle state, which is a CMC content model that is loosely based around the ECTD, brings together and organizes regional controlled terminologies, ICH concepts, and any of the existing sort of formative data standards in the CMC space, such as FDA's PQCMC, also working in IDMP concepts here, as well as, standards that are native to HL7. So we created this content model early last year in collaboration with industry SMEs from the Accumulus sponsor organizations. And we're using this sort of transition state as a stepping stone to start working towards building an HL7 FHIR implementation guide to really make this real and to make this information usable and exchangeable within the platform. And just to give a quick snippet of what the content model organizes, what are the pieces of information that are contained in that content model. We broke apart ECTD module 3, breaking its composition into pieces, and then we put those pieces back together in this sort of model that supports reusable content. So a lot of these concepts are reused across different domains. And this is a map for drug substance. And the primary building blocks here are core content blocks and sub-content blocks that support those core content blocks. And there are different levels of granularity here. So we have this sort of hierarchical structure, and each of these core content blocks and sub-content blocks have individual data elements inside of them. And there are about 350 to 400 different data elements, which are not shown on this slide, but just to kind of give an idea of how this is built. And then if we toggle to the drug product view, it is similar to the drug substance map, which shows kind of some of the repetition that we're working with in the current ECTD structure, where we have analogous sections for DP and DS. So there's a great opportunity here for standardization and really optimizing the way that we're organizing this information for CMC submissions. So at this point, I'll pass back to Sheetal.
Thanks, Rita. So I guess, as Rita mentioned, overall, with the goal of being able to exchange the data effectively and not, or almost like moving away from the narrative-based copy-paste of data sets, the first and foremost is we need to have the structure or standard established for any data. And you may have heard about the FHIR, but also the comment that, oh, FHIR, that's more for clinical or that's for hospitals, right? So, and that's exactly true, because FHIR, the Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. This has started with the medical information, the health records and such, and it's pretty much very widely used within the hospital system's clinical setup. And what's lacking, or why we don't hear much in the CMC zone, because we don't have all the structure and resources established yet for the CMC data. So in short, the FHIR, the concept is, again, with the goal of exchangeability of the data. So it helps to develop the data exchange standards. Of course, with the means of having any of the component that's in that data domain to be well defined, well established, and then also making sure that all the ontologies, all the references are, again, properly maintained in the databases so that nothing stays as like a floating information. So we will always know where to go, what to fetch, and what each and every data component means. So with that goal, again, a couple of other points to mention around FHIR is that it does work with, it's a data exchange standard, but also it works together with the application program interfaces, various APIs. Also, it supports many formats like XML, JSON, the RESTful resources. So hence, again, it is widely used, established, and I guess accepted. Couple of other things which could be, again, of meaningful importance even for CMC data is FHIR by itself, or the whole process of exchanging data using FHIR standard, can definitely support structured data as well as it can support semi-structured data. Sometimes like it's a little bit fluid, where it's the user providing the input for those data, as well as it has the capability to work on the file attachments. So anytime if we have some unique data sets that need to be shared as attachments, again, the FHIR standard can support that. And overall, I guess one more, but the biggest advantage of FHIR is it's almost like based as a modular system. So it can be extended, it can be the compiled together as needed basis, and all the connections can be established. And hence, we can work with any of the existing databases that are currently available or even being made available in the coming years. And those resources or those data sets can also be used. So overall, it is providing us like some standard templates with customizable options. And the first and the foremost, I guess, requisite is that the data has to be standard. And in that, I guess one thing to mention is FHIR, the concept or the standard is based on the FHIR resource. So FHIR resource is, it's like a building block, a Lego block of the whole system. And how we can say that any data component or any information content that can be exchanged has to be tagged, or that is called a resource. So we have to tag it, we have to properly define it. And once all the definitions are created, then all these blocks or the Lego pieces can be used to make different models. And it's again a mix and match, it's a modular concept. And those, like all the building of the full unit is done by, say, establishing the rules, establishing or reusing some of the templates, and those are called then FHIR profiles. So as Rita was mentioning, currently we are in the the interim stage, because again, for CMC data, not everything is well defined. Each of the component is not defined. So our goal within the Accumulus effort and then building the FHIR standard for CMC data exchange is really two things. One is first, start with limited data sets, start defining all the components involved. So it's all the content modeling efforts, identify all their interrelationships, and then accordingly use those mappings to create a FHIR profiles, like using the FHIR concept, and that's through the implementation guide that we are currently working on. So if we can go on the next slide, what this shows is, again, it's a very simplified, I would say just a pilot case for now. What you're seeing on the left side is our, say, a current narrative-based data exchange, which is we write in a document, but every time we are writing in the document, like even the heading of the document, container closure system, that tells us some information. Then following, there is like a table, there are column headings, information is input in every cell. So each of these are added as data pieces, but they are not defined in terms of how they are mapped together, how they are linked together. That is still done manually when we are actually authoring the documents. And also when the information is shared, the whole document goes as one piece. So again, the exchange is also very two-dimensional, and it's not like anytime we want to reuse the data, we either reuse the document itself or we have to copy paste the document. But in contrast, what you're seeing on the right side is, again, it's just a one reported, like one output layout for the same data, but every data you see on the right side is properly mapped, and in between we can just maybe insert small arrow saying that this information, the conventional information, is actually mapped. We have the data sets available, and using the XML codes, we can exchange the data, which is almost in a non-human readable format when it's being exchanged. But at the receiving end, again, it can be translated back into something that's a readable format. And these layouts, again, what you see in the green, they can be changed, they can be developed based on the needs of the user. So essentially, this shows the current to the proposed future state. But again, this is not a mock-up. It's really done by using the XML codes. But this is just a starting point because it's only, say, one section of the CMC data sets. Again, we may not have all the layouts defined properly on the right side. So all this is work in progress. But essentially, every component on the left side is able to be transferred onto the right side, meaning electronically exchanged without using a narrative document. So this is the slide that's showing how it can be done. And again, behind the scene is many rows of the coding. And then to take it further on the next slide, where overall the FHIR IG as well as the data exchange from Accumulus fits, or all the efforts are fitting, is we know that, okay, even on the company side or the sponsor sides, we have multiple roles. Sometimes there are contract testing labs involved, contract manufacturers involved, as well as the owner or the sponsor of the product. So every time, or even across multiple sites of the same company, there is always some data exchange. So the standard we were discussing earlier, or the implementation guide we were talking about, it fits in that area where it's kind of like how the industry can exchange the data using the FHIR standard. And that's the DXPQ standard being developed, or the implementation guide also is being developed. Now, as Rita mentioned, the goal for Accumulus is facilitate that data exchange, but also it is developed in maintaining the compatibility and alignment with various other efforts like PQCMC is there, ISO IDMP, SPOR. So we are not, say, conflicting with any other efforts, but really it's a collaborative effort. So essentially, if the standards are compatible, almost like that standard enables global data exchange. It can be within companies, within different roles, like contract manufacturer versus the receiving end of the sponsor companies, as well as you see on the right side, that's the health authorities, where we will be more like exchange of the regulatory information, and they can also further download it depending on the maturity of individual health authorities. They can also use that data and continue the exchange and analysis internally. So this slide, I guess, overall shows the full scope of if we have that standard established for a data, how it can be exchanged, and how we can move away from just the narrative-based or document-based data exchanges. And on the next one, the ongoing effort, we would just like to share where the FHIR implementation guide is. So as mentioned earlier, currently we are in the middle phase, phase 2, but so far there was a lot of efforts being put on really finding out what is required, what should be the steps to standardize the CMC data, and also having this project registered and being approved now with the HL7 organization. So those activities are completed. You can see the link for the draft, very early draft of the implementation guide on the same page on the right side, the Pharmaceutical Quality Data Exchange IG. It will take you to the HL7 page. There are a lot of, again, work in progress, but you could also see what's shaping up. And as part of the IG development, there are usually, and this follows the HL7 process. So it follows the testing events, again, run through the Accumulus team. Actually, this week, we are hosting the first testing event of the IG on limited data sets from the CMC, including stability specs and the drug substance product informations. Again, there the content model will be tested, as well as some parts of the overall FHIR implementation will be also shared and available for testing. Now, the next two, the July and September events, will also be opened up to the wider audience, the last being publicly available. The goal is to really test the full IG. So by then, we hope to have the full content model available, as well as the FHIR setup available. And again, though, maybe a note to mention that CMC data being complex, plus many modalities warrant many different considerations for the data components. It won't be complete in a sense that it's all ready and every possible case can be handled in that IG. That's not the expectation also, but we would have the mechanism to capture the information, demonstrate how the exchange can be done, and what other options are available to include the data sets from different modalities or different even sponsor companies' considerations. So I think maybe we can, in the interest of time, move on the next one. So the next then, why we were excited to present here is because, again, there could be something definitely we can collaborate and leverage. So as mentioned earlier, the FHIR CMC data, there will be some work that is done through the controlled vocabularies, like established data sets with properly set up input information. And one of that can be because FHIR can allow us to externally connect to these like lists and databases. We are really, I guess, maybe suggesting that this could be one option where the allotrop data, like if you have your data formats, data models, potentially can we exchange and collaborate on those? And again, all the HL7, the FHIR testing, it's the standard is open for contribution, as well as later all the codes and everything is available. So if we could, like, some options of partnering on these efforts will be great. And as mentioned, I guess specifically around the control vocabulary, because that's where a lot of work need to be occurring on defining the ontologies, defining the unique cases, catering for different modalities, or even the testing scenarios. And I guess, Rita, if you have anything to add here before we close.
Nothing to add, Sheetal. I think we can open for questions now.
No, thank you so much.
So I think with that we'll go ahead and move on. So we're a few minutes past, but thanks again, Sheetal and Rita, for a great presentation.